It's October 22nd, 2016. We're in Beaver Stadium in State College, Pennsylvania. With just over 4 minutes remaining, kicker Tyler Durbin is lined up to help undefeated number 2 Ohio State extend its lead over Penn State on the road and continue its march to a second national title in 3 seasons. For the home team Nittany Lions, hope of returning to national relevance is slipping away again after 6 unthinkable years that changed their program forever. There's a national title run at stake here, but to understand why there's a lot more hanging in the balance, we need to rewind. Since recovering from a scandal at the start of the decade, these Ohio State Buckeyes are almost unstoppable. In 2011, college football was rocked by the Tattoo-Gate scandal, in which a band of disreputable college football players dared to capitalize on their on-field celebrity. The horror. The crime of Tattoo-Gate came when 5 Ohio State players, including quarterback Terrell Pryor, fell into NCAA hot water after trading autographs for free ink work from a Columbus tattoo parlor. But that parlor was already under FBI investigation for drug trafficking, which you might have guessed because it's a tattoo parlor in a college town. The fallout of Tattoo-Gate saw OSU losing scholarships and going on probation, as well as the resignation of head coach Jim Tressel in 2011 for failing to report the heinous crime of free tattoo work to the Gestapo, the NCAA. On the field, things had been fine under Tressel. OSU posted 6 seasons of 10 or more wins, but after Tattoo-Gate and minus a head coach, Ohio State briefly fell into a morass, finishing 6-7 in 2011. Then, they hired Urban Meyer, a 2-time national title winner lured out of the announcer's booth when his boyhood team fell on hard times, albeit momentarily. Meyer instantly made OSU a national power again. The Bucks won a perfect 12-0 in 2012, but couldn't compete for any postseason titles in the conference or the national title picture because of NCAA penalties. Off the field, Meyer cleaned up on talent by applying the recruiting ruthlessness of the SEC to the previously quaint Big Ten. In 2013, Ohio State finished 12-2 and almost won the Big Ten. The following season, Ohio State won their first national championship since 2002. In just 3 seasons, the Buckeyes pivoted from a scandal to a national championship. And with the addition of Meyer and his influx of talent, honestly, Tattoo-Gate made the program better. This 2016 Buckeyes team looks like it could be Meyer's best so far. And that's especially impressive because a lot of the OSU names who rebuilt the Bucks into that national power, they're now in the NFL. Even still, the media projected 2016's Ohio State team as a top 10 playoff contender, despite boasting the least amount of experience in the entire country. But that's what happens when one school leads the Big Ten in recruiting for 5 consecutive years. They're young, but Ohio State is experienced at the one position where it counts most. Junior quarterback J.T. Barrett is a Heisman hopeful, and he has young, highly recruited skill position players like running back Mike Weber and wide receiver Noah Brown to break in. This is both a very young team and a wildly talented one. Weird things can happen with that combo, but so far so good. Ohio State stormed out of the gate and walloped Oklahoma and Norman 45-24 in September. And as for this particular moment, it helps that the Buckeyes just survived these circumstances last week in an overtime win against number 8 Wisconsin. That win on the road in Camp Randall after trailing by 10 at the half was OSU's 20th in a row on the road. Against those Badgers, kicker Tyler Durbin hit a 31-yard field goal to tie the game with 4 minutes remaining. Almost the same amount of time remaining here. If the Buckeyes redefine the best-case scenario following NCAA sanctions, Penn State is living the worst. But there are fake scandals because of fake rules, and there are real and horrific crimes that change identities and lives forever, which is why Happy Valley hasn't been happy for a long, long time. On the field, Penn State hasn't beaten a ranked opponent in 3 seasons, and haven't beaten a top 10 opponent since 2008. A blowout loss to number 4 Michigan last month, coupled with an embarrassing loss to unranked in-state rival Pitt in Week 2, created a ho-hum 2-2 start to the 2016 season. Entering tonight, head coach James Franklin is 18-14 at one of college football's all-time winningest programs. He's also 0-7 versus the Wolverines, Buckeyes, and Michigan State, the 3 most dominant programs in the Big Ten this decade. But there's a lot more here than just a slump. In 2012, longtime Penn State assistant coach Jerry Sandusky was found guilty of 45 charges of sexual abuse to young boys over a 15-year period. Sandusky, who worked in State College for 30 years, sexually assaulted children in the showers and bathrooms of Penn State's facilities over a span of decades. Penn State head coach Joe Paterno, along with several Penn State leaders, were found to have had knowledge of Sandusky's sexual assaults without notifying authorities. In 2011, Paterno was fired in disgrace after a 62-year career in Happy Valley. Throughout a half-century, Paterno's stats on the field built Penn State into a national powerhouse. And despite his age, the program succeeded into the new millennium under his watch. After news of Paterno's dismissal was announced, riots broke out in State College. And in a first-of-its-kind move, the NCAA sought to crush the program for violations unrelated to normal NCAA matters like eligibility or benefits or academics. The NCAA hit the football program with a $60 million fine, a 4-year postseason ban, and a reduction of scholarships from 25 per season to 15 for 4 years. All bowl television revenue Penn State would receive from the Big Ten during that time, which was around $13 million annually, would be donated to charity. And in a direct blow to Paterno's legacy, all Penn State wins were vacated, starting in the year when investigators said Penn State first learned of Sandusky's actions through 2011. Crushed by sanctions, the program tried to move forward, selecting New England Patriots assistant coach Bill O'Brien to take over as head coach. Almost impossibly, he guided the Lions to an 8-4 record in 2012, despite the scholarship limitations and an NCAA-permitted open transfer window for any Nittany Lion player wanting to leave after Paterno's firing. But after a 7-5 season the next year, O'Brien, very frustrated with the Penn State culture post-Paterno and the near impossibility of rebuilding the program under NCAA penalties, left for the NFL to become head coach of the Texans. Penn State was a shadow of its former self and far from a destination coaching job. Enter James Franklin, a Pennsylvania native who pulled off a minor miracle of his own, turning SEC doormat Vanderbilt into a winning program. Like former SEC coach Meyer, Franklin immediately improved Penn State's recruiting upon his arrival, signing back-to-back top 25 classes in 2014 and 15 and throwing young players straight onto the field to compensate for the Paterno-sanctioned losses. In 2014, the NCAA removed its postseason ban on Penn State, allowing a 6-win Nittany Lion team to play in and win the Pinstripe Bowl. Penn State matched its 7-6 record the following season as well, leaving Franklin at 14-12 overall. But that's not Paterno-era dominance. In Franklin's first 2 seasons, Penn State lost to doormat Northwestern twice and to lowly in-state rival Temple for the first time in 74 years. Look, the reasons for this dip on the field were beyond obvious. The sanctions were over, but the impact on the roster wasn't. Multiple years of diminished scholarships left particular position groups like offensive line in shambles. But this is college football, where expectations never meet reality, and expectations were the good old days of Penn State needed to start happening again. Entering the 2016 season, Penn State signed another top 25 class, as well as added a new play caller, Fordham head coach Joe Moorhead, to overhaul the offense for a dynamic new quarterback-running back tandem of sophomores Trace McSorley and Saquon Barkley, 2 of Franklin's key signees. Landing Barkley was the recruiting win Franklin promised fans was possible during those dark days of sanctions. But these classes, truly great hauls considering the chasm Penn State emerged from both in NCAA sanctions and public perception, they weren't close to the elite status of Big Ten powers, namely Ohio State. The 4-2 start with the league's best team visiting town didn't feel like turning a corner. Both McSorley and Barkley evolved game by game, learning Moorhead's new, much-hyped offense, while the defense, well, let's just say they learned on the job. Look, it's been years since Penn State won a relevant game, but that hasn't stopped 107,000 fans from creating a whiteout, one of college football's great stadium traditions and, formerly, a brutal environment for visiting teams to play in. But while the scene here in Happy Valley is electric, the football is not so much. The Buckeyes managed just 2 field goals from Durbin in the second quarter to break a scoreless tie. Then this touchdown pass to Marcus Baugh built a commanding 12-0 lead against a struggling Penn State offense, repeating its past performance in statement games. But then, proof of concept appeared. McSorley found receiver Chris Godwin for a touchdown with 9 seconds left in the half, providing the team with its only spark so far. By the fourth quarter, Penn State trailed 21-7. The offense was floundering, but the Lions' defense was allowing a season-low point total against a Power 5 opponent. Still, something had to happen on offense for Penn State to make any kind of real statement. First, this explosive Barkley run of 37 yards, the exact kind of play he was signed to make, flipped the field. Then McSorley scrambled for a touchdown run 3 plays later. After that, this blocked punt set up the Lions deep in Ohio State territory, and as you can see and hear, Beaver Stadium whiteout crowds started to believe.
Brown, 31, who might have got a hand.
Another field goal could only cut the Ohio State lead to 4, and look, that's just not good enough against a championship caliber team. For 10 plays, the Buckeyes chewed the clock from over 9 minutes down to just 4:27. Barrett hit young Noah Brown for a big gain in between Weber runs to grind the clock. Even after failing to convert on 3rd down, the Buckeyes can still extend the lead to 7 with another Durbin field goal, confident that a Penn State offense struggling for most of the night won't be able to answer. The Buckeyes have led the entire game, and the advantage is now all Ohio State's. From the field position to the scholarship numbers on their roster these last 5 seasons to their scandal that they bounced back from. Penn State's road has been harder in every way, shape, and form, after living through a horror that's impossible to separate from the program's legacy. It's not unfair to think a moment capable of starting something new, something after, is just too much to ask for, at least anytime soon. Welcome to a moment in history.
Side of 40. This is from 45, and it's blocked. Lions scoop it up. Brad Haley will score.
Okay, thanks for listening. For more rewinders, for more of everything that you love about Secret Base, visit us on Patreon, support us on Patreon, get early access to our content on Patreon, and join these names.